everyone, and welcome to the Millennial Revolt, an independent political talk show that seeks to bring a different narrative than the stale one we have going on right now in mainstream media. So today we're going to be talking about an appearance that Michael Moore made on Meet the Press, and why it's extremely important that he said what he said, especially given the time where there's so much bias in the mainstream media, and there's not really a room for a difference of opinions. And I think it was extremely important what he said. And I think it can serve as a wake up call to the establishment, Republican and Democrat alike, why they don't fundamentally misunderstand the Trump phenomena and why he could possibly win this election because of their fundamental misunderstanding of the mood of the country and what's going on right now.
Thank you.
Let me start with something you wrote a few months ago. You believe Donald Trump is going to win this election. You believed it before the convention, and you wrote this. From Green Bay to Pittsburgh is the middle of England, broken and depressed, struggling, the smokestacks strewn across the countryside with the carcass of what we used to call the middle class, angry, embittered, working and non-working people who were lied to by the trickle-down of Reagan and abandoned by Democrats. And I know after the debate, you were unlike many. You thought Trump was successful in what he needed to do. Explain.
Yes, I don't want him to win. Let's just make that clear. I've been trying to say for months here. I live in Michigan, and across the Midwest, across the Rust Belt, I understand why a lot of people are angry, and they see Donald Trump as their human Molotov cocktail that they get to go into the voting booth on November 8th and throw him into a political system that has made their lives miserable. And so I think at the convention, I was worried Democrats, the Clinton campaign, were all doing an end zone dance when they were only on the 50-yard line. And this celebrating after the debate, everybody needs to have their game face on here and realize that Trump can win. He can pull this off, and everybody has to be at full force here. Otherwise, it has a chance of happening. And I've lived long enough to know where I've seen, I've never thought a B actor whose co-star was a chimpanzee would ever be president of the United States, or George W. Bush, who was just completely not there himself, that he could ever get elected. Well, I take this seriously now, so Trump is not just comedy to me. I think that people see that he is maybe their messenger, even though they don't necessarily like him or agree with him so much. I think that they love the idea of blowing up the system.
Do you think every time a newspaper editorial comes out and denounces Trump, and every time a former cabinet secretary in a Bush administration comes out and denounces Trump, do you think that backfires? Do you think it oddly reinforces Trump's message?
I think a lot of people who have seen their livelihood vaporize, who are no longer part of the middle class, who are struggling to survive, pay no attention anymore to what the media or the people in power. They've lost all credibility, I think, with a lot of people. I mean, just take what's happened from how we got into the Iraq War. Where was the media on that before the war? Where was the New York Times, for instance, putting Judith Miller's stories, concocting weapons of mass destruction on the front page of their paper? Where was the media while Wall Street was creating this crisis that was about to happen? I mean, so people don't trust the media. They don't listen to it, and for good reason, because the media has let them down. The rich and the powerful have let them down. They used to believe in that. They used to vote for the rich and powerful. And a lot of them aren't going to do that this time. And they, for some strange reason, see Donald Trump as their means to get back at this system.
Michael Moore did a home run in this interview he had on Meet the Press with Chuck Todd. It was simply amazing. Every single thing that he said needed to be said, and especially now, given the fact that the media fails to understand, and the Democratic establishment, as well as the establishment in general, fails to understand the Trump phenomena. They fail to understand why third parties are doing as well as they are in this election. And what he said is completely true. Now, if you look at after the debate, the mainstream media was in one consensus that Hillary Clinton hands down won the debate. But if you look at many of the online polls, whether you went to Time Magazine, whether you went to NBC, whether you went to Slate, which is a left-leaning publication, hands down, across the board, Donald Trump won the debate. Another thing that Michael Moore said, which is extremely important, is that people do not trust the mainstream media. They have lost complete credibility throughout the years, ever since the Iraq War, and you saw many people in the mainstream media pushing for it, and then ever since the housing crisis, and especially in this election where they're just blatantly lying or covering for Hillary Clinton. Now, I am not a Hillary Clinton supporter. I will not be voting for her. But I think it's important that you accurately tell the voters what's going on. You accurately cover a candidate. If you're going to air out Donald Trump's dirty laundry, you need to air out Hillary Clinton's dirty laundry and let the American people decide. The mainstream media should not be trying to rig the election or tip the election in one candidate's favor. Now, what he said is completely true. People do not take the word of the New York Times anymore. They don't take the word of the Washington Post because people don't believe them. They are not believable. Now, they come out with these stories every single day about Donald Trump or why not you shouldn't vote for third parties, and people aren't listening. People aren't listening to MSNBC. People aren't listening to the people on CNN. People aren't listening to you guys because they don't trust you. When people see their livelihoods disappearing, their jobs being shipped out of the country, they see that everything they worked for is just disappearing. Healthcare premiums are just extremely high. They can't afford to pay their rent. Food is getting higher. Gas prices are, thank God, is pretty low. But when people see this throughout the country, and you have the Democratic candidate on one side saying, oh, well, we're doing amazing over here. I'm going to sell you another pipe dream. And they're not really doing anything. Democrats say anything, but change nothing. And then you have on the Republican side, you have just a whole folly of crazies going on over there. What are they supposed to believe? What are they supposed to do? Now, when you have people who are outsiders like Jill Stein, and for all intents and purposes, Donald Trump, because he has not run for public office. When you have people like this preaching a different message, Bernie Sanders, for when he was running, preached a message of inclusiveness, of everyone can win together. We can make this economy work together. That should have told people something then, that there's something fundamentally going wrong. And especially on the left. That was happening on the left. Okay, Donald Trump beat out, I think, 16 people on the right running for the Republican nomination. That should have told people something then. He can win. And the fact of the matter is that the media scoffs at it, that the establishment scoffs at it. Chuck Todd said, well, he wasn't endorsed by any Fortune 500 presidents. Who cares? These people aren't the people who are hurting. They're not the people who see their livelihoods disappearing. They're not the people who see their income shrinking, but their bills keep stacking up and it's one thing after another. They're not hurting. So I can understand why people will say, fuck it, let me go vote for Donald Trump. I can understand that. I can understand why people will say, fuck it, let me vote for a third party. And the fact that the media doesn't understand that, and the fact that they're continuing to fearmonger over it, is the reason why Donald Trump will win the election. Because at this point, I really do think he will win. I think Gary Johnson will pull enough votes from him. And I think Dr. Jill Stein is going to do better than what the polls are saying, because they don't really include her in the polls. And to begin with, they don't like to add millennials, the age group 18 to, I think, 34, in a lot of these polls, because it would show Hillary Clinton doing a lot worse. If anybody watches some of his rallies, they are packed. He is packing out stadiums. He is doing the same thing that Bernie Sanders was doing on the left. I mean, people really need to understand what's going on here. Like, I'm not voting for Donald Trump. I do not like some of the things he says, but I'm not an all-out, oh my god, he's going to destroy the planet. I think he is a hell of a lot better than Hillary Clinton. I'm the Millennial Revolt. Thank you guys so much for watching, and you have a wonderful day.